Talk Radio. Greetings and welcome to the SellorSink Reality Talk Show with your host, Mike Krause. Mike has sold over $100 million in sales and offers Fortune 500 strategies, tactics, and tools to sales professionals and business leaders. He created this show with one thing in mind, for sales professionals to share their secrets with each other. Join us every Wednesday at 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time, or sign up for updates on Mike's mailing list at SellorSink.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
Welcome. It's Mike Krause with the SellorSink Reality Talk Show. I am ecstatic to have the Tom Hopkins, the builder of sales champions and master in the art of professional selling, the #1 sales trainer in the world, Tom Hopkins, with us today. It's an extreme honor on my part to have you today. Tom, how are you today?
I'm great, Mike, and I'm excited whenever I hear that a person's dedicated their life to the profession of selling. It excites me because salespeople in this country make it all happen, and the economy would not be able to survive if we weren't out selling products. So I salute you, sir.
Oh, well, I salute you back because I've been studying your material for 20 years. In fact, I remember the first time I ran across your material and a cassette, 12 cassettes, I believe it was, and it was How to Master Selling, and it was in Jim Zine's office at American Express. And I picked up that material, and I listened to those tapes religiously for a year, every day, and it was just so great. And you're like one of my mentors, and one of the reasons that I went out on my own is because of you, sir. I really appreciate your work, and to be out there 30 years plus and be a champion seller like you are, it's so great to share time with such a legend. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and actually, I want to know let's walk back in time. What got you into sales?
Well, I didn't go to college, and I didn't have any, education as far as the college degree. So I became a construction worker, and after a year of being a iron worker carrying steel, my father suggested, hey, you got a nice way with people, why don't you get a real estate license? And so at 19, I got my license, went into real estate, and spent 8 fabulous years setting records, kind of like you have as well. And then, of course, they invited me to speak, and I started doing seminars and built my training company. That's kind of how it all happened.
When you look back, isn't it incredible what you've built? I mean, to travel all over the world and meet so many people, over 3 million people, and training. What's one of the best things that you remember over time to meet people?
Well, I would say one of the highlights in my life is to go to a foreign country. I just got back from a tour in China, and I had to have an interpreter because I, of course, don't speak Chinese. But to see how other nations, other countries so want to have what we call American selling and know what we do. And so I would say that might have been a highlight in my life the last few years. But every day is so exciting in my life. I play golf a lot. I meet wonderful people. And of course, when I was mentioning this earlier, I go back to a city. I just came in from Philadelphia. I had a seminar there. And a lot of the old-timers, the 50, 60, 70-year-old guys that now own the company, they were salespeople when I met them, they all bring all their people and, hey, Tom changed my life 30 years ago or whatever. So that's kind of a highlight. You work a long time in your life to become recognized as an expert. And I guess I'm just taking advantage of that now, which is great.
I know. It was so great to kick off, before we were talking on the show live here, is to talk to you a little bit off camera and just realize that you still have you said, I have a passion for training and I love meeting new people. I mean, that just speaks, I think, volumes for someone that's been out there traveling so long, and just to have that still fire in their belly to go out there and make people better is just awesome. So
Well, and the word passion is important to me. I played golf, I guess, about 6 months ago with Wayne Gretzky, who, of course, changed the entire sport of hockey Great man, fun man. And, I got him in the car after we played, driving back to his home, and I says, hey, Wayne, I got to ask you, what do you think the reason was you became the number one hockey player? You changed the sport. When you came to the Kings in L.A., it totally changed the love of this sport in our country. And he said it. He said, I had a passion for all aspects of hockey, passion for practice, passion for winning, passion for losing. And that's kind of when I said, you know what, the people that make it are passionate about what they do. They don't just have a job. They, burn with a desire and have a passion to do whatever they do. So that's my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I, wanted to go out and to start my own training company and consulting is I really had a passion for doing this, and that's probably what happened to you after your 8 years of success in real estate is to go out and help others achieve their sales goals and teach them the tips and tricks that you've learned and struggled over the years to be successful. And kind of hitting on that, what was the turning point that you figured that out in real estate is that you went from the struggling one, or maybe you never struggled, to the success? What was that pinnacle, that point?
Well, I did struggle. Like I say, when you're 17 years of age and didn't go to college, you're out carrying steel. I watch television, Mike, and I see a baseball game at Dodger Stadium. And Dodger Stadium was the first job I worked on, carrying steel on that stadium. And so I look at it and I think back, here I'm 17, then 18, and I got my real estate license at 19. My mom and dad were not successful. And see, if you were raised in a life of scarcity, it's somewhat difficult to not only get abundance, but to handle it when you get it. So as my income started going up in real estate and I started making money, buying homes, I bought many rental properties. I invested my money back in real estate in California, and that's kind of how it all happened. And then at 27, I was able to financially retire. And I thought, well, now I don't have to worry about making money. What do I want to do? And I said, well, first thing, I'm going to write a book, which is my first book, How to Master the Art of Selling, of the 15 I've written. And then I said, I'm going to start teaching others. And all of a sudden, I started getting calls. I never had to prospect. I did one seminar in Portland, Oregon in 1969. And from that point, my phone, I've been blessed. I'm booked as much as I want to be, and having done over, I think I'm heading towards 4,500 seminars in the last 30-plus years. I just had a wonderful life, and I love salespeople, and I mentioned it earlier, but all kidding aside, the product that you sell is what makes the profit to the company. And the company needs profit to pay taxes, so we stay in business. So selling, even though some people look down their nose at salespeople, they don't realize that, it all starts with selling. And I think there's approximately 11 million people in the United States that are involved in some type of sales and marketing. And those people are so important to this country. And so I salute them as they listen to us, and hopefully we give them some ideas to maybe go out, close more sales, make more money, pay more taxes, and let's be successful.
Absolutely. And you said a lot there. Is like one of the things is, I want to hit back to it because it's one of my pet peeves a little bit, is why do people look down on the salesperson through their nose? Why do they look down on us, Tom? What did we do so wrong?
Well, it's a couple of reasons. First of all, selling is a business that oftentimes you can get into with no education. You can get into it for very little money. And there are people that should never be in sales. And they get in and they hurt people. There's also people that are con men that aren't professional salespeople that'll say or do anything to make a sale. And a lot of times they lie. A lot of times they are not coming from truth. And so I would say the average American has at one point experienced what I call an incompetent salesperson. And that has a lasting effect on them. Not only that, I think a lot of people feel like that it's the lowest thing on the grid as far as working to go out and sell something. Which that's changing a lot. I think a good example is the automobile industry. And I train a lot of those folks, besides real estate, insurance, you name it. There's probably not an industry that I haven't trained and worked with their people. But a lot of people look down their nose at someone that's out selling automobiles, and yet, with the fabulous new products coming out of Detroit, we really do have a new entire line of products and cars. And, hey, it's an honorable profession. I have friends of mine that I've bought many cars from that are totally professional, totally honest, have tremendous integrity. So I think we just can't buy into that bad rap that we've gotten. But I also believe that every salesperson has got to honor the profession of doing their very best to give more than they say they're going to give. Do more than they expect you to do. Follow up. Send thank you notes. Keep in touch. And that's how you build a long-term reputation of integrity. And I have got a few of my friends that they've never picked up the phone in 20 years to prospect because they're referred to by everybody because of their integrity, their hard work, and they do what they say they're going to do. That was kind of my last two or 3 years in real estate. I mean, I had more business than I could ever handle, and it was not, I wasn't prospecting because I didn't need to. People say, hey, you do not buy a home unless you see Tom Hopkins because he will take good care of you. And that's kind of the way I think you need to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And, being in sales my whole life, and actually, Tom, I'm fourth generation, and my family started with real estate, and my dad still, Dave Krause, is still in real estate, and he has 45 people working under him as a manager. And what are some things that makes that real estate appealing, that people get in it, and what can realtors do to be more successful so they don't have to hit the phone?
Well, first of all, like 2002 until 2008, we had 6 years of the hottest real estate, the hottest economy I have ever seen. I mean, people were throwing checks at everybody. Now, the challenge we find is a lot of people got a real estate license, went in, never got trained, never, invested in their education, but they didn't need to. It was so good. But we have had an exodus out of the real estate, out of every, selling profession the last 2 years, because the market has not only changed, but you really have to know what you're doing. You can't wing it like you could in those 6 years, 2002 to 2008. You have to be a pro. And that's one reason why I mentioned it to you earlier. Our seminars and our book sales and our CDs and everything are going through the roof because I think a lot of companies say, you know what, we didn't need it, but now my people need to get some motivation and some training and some how-to selling techniques. And right now, Mike, my audiences are only like 12 to 15% real estate. We've kind of gravitated into almost every profession. And I think the main one right now that I'm seeing people come out of the woodwork are financial services, because the average American needs help in that area. And if you're a pro in that area, you can make a fortune helping them save their fortune.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was in that profession for a couple of years, and it was an interesting process, and I learned a lot from that. Going back to something you said there, Tom, with the training and going back and polishing your craft, I like to call it, making the better out of it. Why do sometimes salespeople think that they can just go out there and wing it? And going back to what you said, you have to be a pro today, and that companies are reinvesting themselves into their people and their company. Why do people think that they can just go out there and be a sales professional, or I shouldn't say professional, just a salesman, and just jump in and with both feet?
Well, I think it's, again, a mentally thing with a lot of salespeople. They don't understand the importance of investing in education. Now, for example, in many states today, they have made laws where you must go to so many hours of education. And then the sad truth is many of those courses are not uplifting. They're kind of boring, but of course I got to get 45 hours a year to just keep my license, so I go. We're fortunate because in many states I have my training certified so that I get to get the hours to the people in those states where they have to have it. But I think the challenge is that most real estate people, most people that sell anything, don't realize that it's a science. It's something you can increase your effectiveness. You can increase your closing ratio. I guarantee you, the salespeople listening right now, many of them are not watching on a monthly basis their closing ratio, meaning how many people do I talk to that I move into a live appointment, how many of those appointments do I actually move into a closed transaction. And these are ratios that are very important. But again, I come back to the fact that most salespeople are not real detail-oriented. I mean, I wasn't when I started, but I went to a couple seminars, and the people said, hey, you are a company within the company. As a salesperson, you must know how many calls you have to make to generate so much business to reach your financial goals. And then, of course, I became more detail-oriented. The folks listening, by the way, Mike, if they go to my website, www.tomhopkins.com, there's a free resource page. And this page are all the documents, the follow-up. I have one thing called the daily activity graph, which is a fabulous way to actually structure your activity because, as you and I both know, the productivity, the sales are a result of last month's or the month before activity. So if I can get people, actually graphing activity, they will know why they're not making the money they want to make. So anybody that's listening, if you want to go, it's free. We have all these resources that we give to salespeople, but please feel free to go there. And the one thing I would definitely get sent to you or put on your email is the daily activity graph.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom has a great newsletter that I subscribe to, packed with information. If you're not continuously learning and honing your craft as a sales professional, you're just missing the boat because these things they can be learned, but it's not an overnight process, is it, Tom?
No, you must become a student of the art form of selling. And I've always lived by a little saying that school is never out for a pro, and I also believe you can judge a pro by what they learn after they think they know it all. And these little things I've lived by, I teach, and I know you as well, are doing your best to inspire people in sales to, number one, realize it's not a job, it's a profession. It's not luck, wit, charm, a big smile, a handshake. It is totally a profession. But again, there's a common denominator in most salespeople. They want to just be themselves. And if themselves is not making lots of money, they got to change themselves.
Absolutely. And I want to jump into one of these words that I know resonates with you, and trust and loyalty. How does that sales professional build that trust and loyalty?
Well, I believe that the biggest that we have an obstacle to overcome from the moment we meet a buyer or a future buyer, and that is there is a lack of trust. If they walked into your retail store, if they walked into your office, if they called for information, there's an immediate lack of trust that I don't want to be sold. And so the first key, I think, is to overcome this, and that, of course, begins with, stories. Especially if you have some happy clients, you need to get some testimonial letters from them that say, where you can even read them or hand them and say, a lot of people today are leery about anyone that, helps market. I never say sale, helps market a product or service. And so these I wanted to show you as we get to know each other. Here are some letters from people who I've served in the last 10 years. and this is my goal, is to make people happy. And, of course, the letters, say, hey, Tom, thanks for all the great service you gave us. We love the product or service. We're looking forward to, working with you. And so this is a third-party testimonial, Mike, that I think is more powerful than you as the salesperson telling them how great you are.
I agree with that 100%. I always tell people that, they don't believe you, so you might get your customer on record here to go and do what Tom just mentioned, a testimonial, or the new hot thing, the video testimonial. You can get these handheld video cameras, or even my iPhone takes a video, and put people on record. People want to hear that they were happy after doing business with you. And I also love what you said, too, Tom. I always try to get rid of that word sale. Provided service to this person, or provided this,
Sure.
or provided that. Because, as we know, sale does have a little negative connotation to it, and you want to keep that conversation, positive. That's for sure. One thing, too, is that we always hear about relationship selling. And that's like one of those buzzwords that have been hammered for the last 10 years or so. Relationship selling, what does that mean to you, Tom? What does that mean?
First of all, Mike, let's look at the basic truth. Everybody's trying to come up with a new niche.
Yes.
Everybody's trying to take the old fundamentals and make this as something, exciting and new. And, okay, that's marketing. I think 8th book was called Low Profile Selling, How to Act Like a Lamb but Sell Like a Lion. Mm-hmm. And it went through the roof because people in sales, many of them don't want to think that they're selling. They'd rather not be pushy, of course. So I guess that was a niche for me. But everybody's looking for some new concept, idea, which most of it's all taking and rehashing the old fundamentals, but maybe in a new packaging mode, and which is fine. But I just think that a lot of people that hear about any type of selling are kind of turned off because of something that's happened in the past. But I never sold a home. I got 1,553 families happily involved in the American dream and the pride of ownership of property. And it's a whole different feeling the way you say it.
Yes, it is. I love that, because instead of I sell houses, you're providing a home for the American people. I mean, that is just, it's perfect. And it's just like what you mentioned. I believe you hit the nail right on the head, Tom, is like people are trying to always recast or recarve and come up with a new widget. But at the end of the day, it still goes back to the fundamentals of building the trust with people, building the loyalty, following up, like you said in the beginning of our call, Tom, doing what you say. I mean, if you just do what you say, I think you can be successful in sales. Just follow up when you say you're going to do. Because
I agree. I think that, but you also want to learn the art of questioning. Mm-hmm. Too many salespeople are too talkative. They want to hear themselves, and as they get more and more into the business, they love the talking, the presentation. And I've changed a lot of people's lives by having them master the art of questioning and listening instead of talking. Because, there's a basic truth. If you say it, they tend to doubt it. But if with questions they say it, it's true. So I would say that, 90% of what I teach is not talking but listening after you stimulate them with the right question to get what you need. Because there's another truth, Mike, that I know you know. Whoever's talking in a conversation is only learning what they already know. The person listening is getting what they need to know, and that is the things that are necessary to close the sale.
Absolutely. They're leading you. They're leading the witness. They're talking you through, and it's so critical. And everyone thinks that they're a good listener, but I work on it every day. I always try to slow down, pause, question. And you, Tom, as you know, questioning is the art of selling. Questioning, pausing, asking for clarification. It's so critical, and so few do it. And maybe that's why it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of them are actually practicing it. So,
And, that darn 80-20 rule, Mike, will always be in existence. Maybe a little different, but, 80% of the people out in the field of sales are fighting for 20% of the income, and you got those 20% that are making 80% of the money. And then, of course, you have that elite group, the 5%. I call them the true champions. That they're not only the top producer in their companies, they're making tremendous incomes. And that's one thing that's changed. I know you probably realize too, but when I was back as a kind of new salesperson, I was in my early 20s. Our dream was to make $100,000 a year. And, man, anybody that had a six-figure provable income, we just saluted. We looked at them as kings. Today, believe it or not, there are people, and I've trained a lot of them, that are making seven figures a year. One young man, when I say young, he's like 50, but one guy out in California, Hector Lamarck is his name. He's in financial services, and he owns his own business within the business. But his income last year was $3.4 million. Well, who'd have ever dreamed that people could earn in selling over $1 million a year? But because there's no guarantees, you can have riches. And I've always believed that if there's no guarantees, you take the risk, that's where the wealth is.
Absolutely. My dad always says that. He goes, Mike, if they give you a higher base, you're just not going to make as much. Take the one with the lower base and work your commission, or even take it 100% commission, and you'll make more money. It's so true. That is so true. And that's also on the side when you're hiring the salesperson. If they're always around the base, you really don't have a sales professional in front of you.
Yeah, this is true. A real pro doesn't want a guarantee, but make sure that if I produce, that I make a lot of money. And, that's why there's nothing wrong with starting in sales where the company gives you a little base to get you going, to pay your little bit of overhead. But if they give you too many guarantees and you can't say, hey, if I generate this revenue, I get paid this much money, then you should probably, once you get your skills, but there again, we come back to the fact that if you're not a skilled professional in the art of selling, then you got to be careful, because you can go and say, hey, I want to work for all commission and lose your shirt because you don't know what you're doing. So we come back, I guess, Mike, to what you and I live: training, education, taking other people's successes and building on them. And that's what I did all my life.
Absolutely. And then now in the world of information, you're a Google away to get some education, or show up to Tom's seminars or a webinar or anything. I mean, the information out there is incredible. And if you're not doing it now, I encourage you to do it. And we got about 2 minutes left here, Tom, and I want you to close it down. I know you got a lot of activity on your plate. How can people reach out to you? And I know you got a seminar coming up in August that I want to attend, and I'm going to put myself down as 99% there, because I just think it's going to be awesome, and I'm always learning from the best, and Tom's the best. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, if they go to my website and look at what we have to offer, but I do have this 3-day boot camp. I have it only once a year. It's every August. It's 25, 26, 27 of August. It's right here in it's at a beautiful hotel here in Scottsdale. And if they have information or want it, they can call me on my 800 number, Mike, which is 800-528-0446. And if they call there, just say, hey, send me a brochure on this thing called boot camp, and come out and stay with us in August. We get the hotel at very inexpensive rates because of this time of year. The rooms that are normally $450 a night would be like, $105 or $95. I mean, it's crazy. But come see us in Scottsdale, and Michael, I hope you can make that too as well.
I'm going to. I want to. I just got to clear my calendar, but I'm 100% in. I love it, and I can't wait to learn from the champion himself, and it's just incredible. And you see, all of us in our field, the trainer, sales trainer, always are learning, aren't we, Tom?
We're always. I just came back from a 4-day seminar that I went to as a student, because I'm not going to stop doing what I ask my students to do. Keep getting education.
Period. Great way to close the show out, Tom. You're a first-class gentleman, and I'm so glad that after 20 years of listening to your tapes and materials that we were able to connect on this. It means a lot to me.
Thank you, Mike. All the best, my friend. I'll talk to you at our next time together.